Hey everyone. So I'm releasing RPG template today. This is a project that I did and it was a learning experience. I learned quite a bit and I actually didn't cancel this project because of any particular reason. However, I decided at some point that I would rather work on a first person shooter rather than continue working on this RPG template. At the time, I was playing a lot of Guild Wars 2, and I had some WoW under my belt. You might recognize this as being, well, I can't remember the name of the PvP area in World of Warcraft. The idea was to just make a basic demo supporting multiplayer that would have a hotbar on the bottom of the screen and cooldown timings and sort of just just sort of things that I've always kind of wanted to do in my own sort of MMO RPG kind of a thing. There's two things that I did wrong with this project that I should probably go over first because I made the mistake when I released the Quake template. I didn't explain where what it was that I did incorrectly and why the project died. And I'll go ahead and I'll explain it here and now so that you have a full understanding of what you're getting into, what to learn from it, and what to avoid. So the first thing that I did wrong with this project was I did way too much tunneling of variables. Once you get an object, the UI does not need to have variables fed sequentially to like everything. So like every time I deal damage to the object, it doesn't have to go back to my character and then feed to the UI. Like the UI can literally grab everything that it needs and it can almost work like a hub that just handles that can get any information that's relevant and feed it to the screen correctly. I learned how to do this in the Quake template. The Quake template does this a lot better. But in this, I literally like every point of damage that you do to the enemy is fed to the character, which is then fed to the player controller, which is then fed to the HUD, right? It's just so inefficient. And when I was releasing this, I had also broke the floating numbers. I had a functioning floating numbers support, but it belonged to somebody else. It was like a on the marketplace, so I had to rip that whole section of it out in order for me not to be a total dickwad towards the guy who I bought that I bought that blueprint example from that person. Didn't think I was going to release the blueprints at the time that I was working on it, so you won't see floating numbers and stuff like that. You should see them, but you don't. Now, it's been a while since I've actually taken a look at this, and there's quite a bit going on here as far as like character selection. There's actually quite a lot to glean from this when it comes to like, um, yeah, gather all characters and then organize which ones are enemies and friendlies and which ones are pinned. So I had this like functionality where if you ever find an enemy that's within range, you can actually pin that person and you can see them at all times, like in a raid HUD. It's kind of an interesting feature. So anyway, I got distracted. The first thing is just tunneling the variables like this was just so tedious. You don't have to do it that way. The HUD can do an awful lot on its own. All it needs to do is grab the entities, and that's it. So like, yeah. So the other thing that I did wrong with this and Quake template is the overuse of structs. And this seems to be a common mistake. So like you'll notice that I have, okay, like an action base here. If I open up action base, this is the base entity for all of the action in the entire project, right? And you'll see like a full list of like spells and abilities, and elementalist is the class. So these are all the abilities that the elementalist has, right? And you'll notice that when I open this up, it's just a struct. Doing it this way is very, 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 very dangerous. And the reason why is because as the project continues to get more and more complicated, what you'll start to see happen is, and this may have been fixed, but eventually your abilities, like you'll just load up the editor one day and like Cure 2 will suddenly just be at its default values, and you'll have to go and open up Cure 2 again and manually reset all of these to what they're supposed to be. It was tedious and annoying. Structs are useful for smaller things. They're useful for some stuff, but don't use structs as your core way of determining like all of the different entities. You can't just make a bunch of child objects and then modify them in the struct and then expect things to be okay. One of the other problems when it comes to using structs overly like this is that if you ever rename something, you have to be really, really, really super vigilant to make sure that you fix up redirectors in the folders. Renaming stuff, renaming a blueprint is dangerous, especially if you're working with structs, because the redirectors don't always work correctly. I'm not exactly sure what the exact problem was. I remember a while back when I first learned about it, it was after having help with somebody who was basically a dev or someone who was really close in the UE4 team, uh, like poured over my scripts and figured out that the structs were the problem, and it was because I renamed something at one point in time and then didn't fix up the redirectors, and it just completely fucked things. Like now I wasn't able to like modify the struct anymore. I wasn't able, parent objects were just resetting themselves. Their pins were just coming unconnected for no fucking reason. I was no longer able to actually like try and package the project anymore. So I will make another video soon that shows the actual correct way to do it using data tables. You can still use child parent setup when it comes to the objects, but you want to use data tables when you have like lots and lots of abilities. And that reduces the entire complexity of all of this shit down to one list of every spell in the game. One list, and it's like so much easier on the engine, and it doesn't fuck up. It can't have those same problems, and you have one entity that just becomes whatever spell you need and stuff like that. I'll show that off. I have a project that I never quite finished because it was too discouraging when I lost Quake template that I kind of stopped working with blueprints for a while, and I just never really came back because it was just so discouraging. But I do actually have an example that I can show off that is correct. Anyway, um, so you'll notice that I have all of these things set up. Now let me just show the project off. So right mouse click. Let me full screen this. Right mouse click, just like World of Warcraft. If you hold down, you boom, and you still have your mouse, and you can move around with the WASD keys, right? This class is called the Elementalist. Now, going over all of the different abilities will be pretty interesting. So these guys here are friendly NPCs. See how you can like pin them? Once they're pinned, I can run away and they'll just stay on my list. It doesn't seem to be working properly at the moment. But it was a neat idea where sometimes in larger scale PvP, I often wish that I can just take like somebody that I know that I really find annoying, like a rogue or something like that, um, and just like when I see him once, just pin him, and now I can see whenever he pops up again, and I can just select him instantly by clicking this. It would just been like one of those quality of life things that maybe World of Warcraft has it in like a custom HUD or something, but damn man, I really that would have been really nice. Anyway, so the first ability is Frostbolt. You might recognize this from Mage. It's sort of like this character class is sort of like a combination of White Mage from Final Fantasy XIV and Frost Mage from World of Warcraft. I just kind of made a list of abilities like this. Okay, a medium potency single target attack. So make sure I'm in range, and I press 1. Wait, I guess it has a. I'm Frostbolt. Why aren't you? It's an invalid target. Oh, those are friendly, derp. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I'm red. Shit. I wonder why I ended up being on the red team. My health bar is red and stuff like that. Frostbolt. Okay, Frostbolt does a decent amount of damage. As you know, you can kind of just keep casting them out. Got Icy Veins. Any ice elemental spell will be 20%, decreases casting times and cooldowns by 20% on self for 10 seconds. So like if I pop this, then I'll be able to do my frostbolts a little faster. But it also works for like healing spells and stuff like that. So like if I want to cast a heal, so here's regen. Applies a 0.1 potency healing over time effect on target. So like the potency values are similar to Final Fantasy 14. So like you'll see that the target here, he has slowly recovering HP over time, right? And then there's Cure 2. I select myself, I can Cure 2 myself, or I might want to Cure 2 this guy, right? So like I'm a healing class, but I'm also a Frost Mage. Just something I kind of thought would be neat. Like high potency single target heal. The thing about Cure 2 is that it's not as efficient mana or as SP efficient. So here's this move called Refresh, which is a way to regenerate your SP. You cast that on yourself and your SP will start to regenerate. Somebody can dispel this off of you, so you have to be careful about that, right? Medica is an AoE heal, but it applies a special status effect on your allies. So when I pop this ability, you'll notice that it hits my allies, increases healing received by 20%, increases healing by 20%. So like their healing effect goes up. But I have this move called Benediction, which is a super high potency single target heal that can be only used on a target with Medica status. And basically what it does is it cleanses the Medica status. Um, if Medica is on the target, then you have this like really powerful um, single target heal, which is really fast and efficient. But you can only use it once, and it'll remove their medica. So like you have to decide like it's just a this would actually be kind of cool to run through dungeons with a class like this. Blaze is a gigantic AOE that you drop on the ground that anybody who's standing inside of its radius will gain a burn effect. Let me try reloading this. So that yeah, okay, cool. I'm on the green team now. I don't know if there's like what bugs are going on right now. Like there's probably things that are just a little messed up. Okay, so I'm green. Now if I pop Blaze, you should see these guys will get yeah, there they go. See like damage over time effect? Blaze is a damage over time effect. And sometimes you'll have to do cleanse if one of your allies removes one harmful damage over time status effect on target. So if like one of your buddies gets a status effect like uh, like Blaze on them or something like that, like these guys have it. This guy has Blaze on him. If I was on his side, oh wow, actually Blaze affects your allies. That I wasn't ready for. I'll need to pop Medica. Shit, buddies. Well, that actually makes things kind of neat, so I can do some testing. Okay, so I'll benediction you. Boom, that benediction topped him right off, but it cleared out all of my refresh potency. So as a elementalist, I have the ability to use teleport. Boom, teleport has a fairly long cooldown, it's 30 seconds. I think that if you have icy veins up though, it reduces the cooldown timing as well. So like icy veins plus teleport means that you might be able to teleport a little bit faster. Uh, Now combustion causes a high damage explosion around target if it has the burn status effect. Okay, so if I walk up to this guy and I use burn, where are you? Burn. Okay, if there's Frost Nova, Fireball, Ice Lance, pow. Ice Lance is just like Ice Lance on Frost Mage. So if I apply this status effect, applies a 0.2 potency damage over time effect on target for 30 seconds. So if he has burn on him, then I can do this move called Combustion. And basically Combustion is like one of my most powerful attacks. And it refreshes, I believe it actually even refreshes the burn status. So like one of the things you want to make sure is if you see somebody with burn and uh, Combustion being a 1 minute cooldown move is like, you pop your Combustion, or you have the ability to do burst where it's a stun. Stuns enemy target with an area of effect for 4 seconds. So you have like a really high damage move or a crowd control move, and you have to pick which one. And that's kind of how that is set up like that. So let me put Blaze down. I can't imagine in a real MMO actually being able to like hurt your teammates. Why isn't it hurting them? Oh man. Well, it's definitely not perfect. There's definitely some shit going on here that obviously is a little bustaculated. Um, so there is Fireball, which is high damage, high potency, slow casting fire attack. So Fireball is like really slow to cast, but it does like a lot of single target damage. So Ice Lance, Ice Lance. With Ice Lance you don't really have a casting time. You can just keep kind of poking at somebody. So I can go Fireball, which is really slow cast, and then pow! You see how hard it hits? Now, it also does a small area of effect. So if you have a whole bunch of enemies that are all grouped up into a tiny area, you can pop them all in one shot. Now, Frost Nova, I keep clicking on by accident. Um, Frost Nova works exactly like Frost Nova and Ice Mage in World of Warcraft. So basically, when you pop Frost Nova and you're next to some enemies, boom. Alright, you'll see this right here. Unable to walk or run. Like, it basically roots people to the ground. It's an area of effect around the player that's at the center of wherever you're standing when you use it. Pow. Right? It does a little bit of damage as well. But you can root people, and you can kind of get out of line of sight if you need to, and stuff like that. Fireball. Boom. Do a whole bunch of damage. Then I can teleport away. I think the teleport acts a little funny if I can't. No, sometimes it doesn't quite work if there's like geometry blocking the way. It's a little bit finicky. Okay, pacify applies a pacify status target if the target is casting. So whenever you see somebody casting a fireball, which is like a move that takes a long time to actually uh, get off, you'll see like um, you'll have an opportunity to hit them with a pacify. Now pacify has a long cooldown. It's like 2 minutes, looks like. But if you manage to catch someone with it, or you'll just end up. So somebody can juke, so they can be like, start casting like a cure 2 or something like that. Oh, I'm all out of fucking. Well, yeah, refresh. Like you can juke a spell to kind of bait somebody to use a pacify. And if you know that they burned their pacify, then they won't have any ways to stop your casting. And then you'll be able to do like a blaze or a frost, or go right from a frost nova to a blaze. Actually, frost nova, yeah, you can frost nova somebody in place, and then you can hit them with blaze right afterwards. So this guy's got burn still on him right now. Let me get myself with another refresh. Uh, So there's Mana Shield. Become immune to damage while greatly reducing the effects of healing and support on self for 8 seconds. Cannot perform actions or move while affect. So this is basically like an ice block. You basically become invulnerable for a short amount of time. So if I know that I'm in a lot of trouble and somebody's putting a lot of pressure on me, I can just be like, boom, and I'm stuck in this position, but people really they can do barely any damage to me at all. It's pretty neat. So like that has a fairly long cooldown. You notice how these moves are all enhancement, right? And then you have fire, you have adloquium, which is a special category. Anything within the same tree will be on cooldown. So cooldowns work that way. They actually, so anything, so if I cast fireball on a target, say if I cast fireball on this guy, you'll notice that anything in the fire tree, fire, 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 is on cooldown. So you can't just spam moves within the same thing. So invigoration, if I use cure 1, well, cure 1 doesn't have a cooldown. Yeah, but cure 2 does. So I'll be locked out of cure 2. But rejuvenation, being a regen or a heal over time effect, doesn't really have to worry too much about it. But then I can pop this, a cure 2, which is a lot more potent. Um, but it will make it so that I have to wait a couple seconds in order before I can pop any of the other invigoration spells. Boom. Okay, so that was Medica, and now I can Benediction, or, well, I'll have to actually do that. I got 13 seconds of Benediction. Alright, so like, these are actually really high potency things. But one of the things that's nice about Medica is that you can pop Medica, and then you can use Regen, and then your Regen is more potent while they also have uh, Medica on them. So Regen is actually really nice when combined with Medica. That's pretty much everything. Everything's all set up. Like you can go through it. The complexity of the actions when you go to action base. I mean, it's basically just a giant gambit. It makes sure that it all happens on the server. Um, if the ability is on cooldown, and it just goes through a gigantic thing where it's like this block is for remote casting targets, and target is checks for target validity, check if the player has enough SP, right? And this is what happens here. Casting phase. Like there's actually quite a bit to be gleaned from this. Like you can learn an awful lot from it. Just remember that the UI does not need to have variables tunneled to it. You don't have to do it that way. And make sure to be careful about overusing structs. But otherwise, this is a pretty cool project to just take apart and look at it, and just it's especially if you want to make a game like this. Like if you've ever wanted to make a World of Warcraft or a Guild Wars style like PvP MMO style game, like you should really just like see what I did here. Yeah, and take it apart. So there isn't really much else to really go into it. I hope you enjoy the project. I made sure that it's updated. It's missing a couple of things. It's not perfect. There's definitely some bugs. There's some other stuff, like I was getting ready to actually like add NPCs or quest objects, which are objects that would just be like sitting on the ground, or you can press use on them and you walk up to them and you can activate them and stuff like that. But I never really got that far in. It ended up just being like a really fun learning experience. Um, so stay tuned for me to actually show off an example of how to do things properly, uh, which will be my project Stray project, where you don't have to worry about doing things incorrectly. Maybe I'll one of these days like convince myself to finally get back into blueprint scripting. It was a real punch in the gut when I lost my first, my Quake template though. But as it stands anyway, like Project Stray was going in the same direction as Quake template, but it actually started off. It started off a lot better. Like I can easily imagine that if I was to put a couple of months into Project Stray, then you'd actually see something that's pretty cool fairly quickly. Well, anyway. Alright, I'm going to end this here. Stay tuned for more, and I hope you enjoy. And let me know what you think of the project. Like, if you learn anything from it, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. And support me on Steemit. Steam it gives me Bitcoin. I really like getting Bitcoin for this stuff. Like I don't even want to fucking monetize my videos on YouTube anymore. Let them keep the money. I want Bitcoin now. All right, that's that.
Back from the dead.